Hey, what's up everybody, this is Rick51 and today I want to show you guys a new build. And as you can see by the beginning of the video, this build can pump out some ridiculous DPS in certain circumstances. So at the beginning of the video, you saw me doing 2.5 million DPS at the target range. And this build can easily get over 3 million DPS because one of the biggest damage increases of the build, Unstoppable Force, does not proc at the target range. Now I've heard some differing statements that Unstoppable Force does actually give you the amount it says, or it's actually 1.5% for 10,000 armor. Either way, that'd be a 30 or 40% damage increase. Either one of those is still going to give me over 3 million DPS, and it's still going to be just shredding stuff. And this build is in no way optimized. I don't even have a active talent as the first main talent, most of the time at least. So the reason I wanted to do this build is because I was seeing builds using this weapon that have been coming out recently, and they just do insane amounts of damage, and I wanted to try it, but I didn't have a ton of stuff to try the builds other people were doing with this weapon. So I said, okay, why don't I just throw this weapon on all of the armor pieces I already used for my last build and see what happens. And it works pretty well. Now this build is mainly focused on increasing your percentage weapon damage, and it is the 3-7-7 build. So 3 red is the max you can have. You need at minimum 7 blue and 7 yellow to activate all of your talents. Now we should go over the weapons first because those are pretty important. Now, another reason I actually want to do this is because at the secret vendor Cassie Mendoza, this exact weapon right here is being sold at her, and it should be 499 gear score for you if you're on World Tier 5, and it is a pretty decent gun. It does have the accuracy on it, which is one of the better secondary rolls. The first roll I need to re-roll. I don't even have it active right now. You can have it active, but the best roll for your main talent for this is either going to be Optimus, which you can get on it, or the other talent, I forget the name, where you do more damage the farther away a target is from you. Either of those are good. I'm thinking Optimus is probably going to be better. Now, the reason this weapon's so good is because it's considered a marksman weapon, so it gets the 138% headshot damage increase, but it literally has the RPM of rifles, of just normal rifles that, you know, usually would have like 30 some K damage from you or something, but it has the same RPM with higher damage and this ridiculous headshot damage. Now, the normal fallback of this weapon would be it's really unstable since it's semi-automatic, but that's where a lot of the mods come in. Now, what you saw me using in the video was actually the digital scope, which you get from being in the sniper specialization. It's one of the talents you can get, which gives just a stupid increase, 45% headshot damage. So if you were long range, and it's critical hit damage minus, which this build is not focused at all on critical hit chance or damage, so that's not really a big reduction. It is a long range scope, but this scope is absolutely ridiculous in the headshot damage. So if you want to use this scope, you can. You actually have some options. So it's a decently long range scope. It's nothing crazy. You can't zoom in and out, but it's a good scope if you want to use that. Or if you want to be more close, medium range type stuff, you can use, you know, the hollow sights or the other sights. There's actually 2 that give 10% accuracy, weirdly. But, you know, anything like accuracy, stability, all that type of stuff is going to be needed on this weapon because you want the accuracy and stability as high as you could possibly go, because this thing just goes everywhere because it's a sniper rifle that's semi-automatic. So it has some pretty good kick, but you can get them up. And even with this build, which I'm pretty much only getting any of that stuff from mods, it's pretty high. You can get it higher with some other talents and stuff like that. Now, the secondary I'm using for this build, Chatterbox, I don't think really has a good use in this build at all. But Merciless is actually pretty good. Merciless with the Brutality talent, while Hustler Landing, a shot has a 5% chance to deal 20% damage as explosive. If you're hitting, you know, hundreds of thousands of damage headshots, that explosive is going to be a really big explosive damage, so it is pretty good. And I definitely like using this more in Chatterbox for almost everything because you don't have to reload, you don't have to worry about it, it's just a passive thing, and you're not wasting ammo because you can actually go through ammo with this thing pretty quickly. Now, let's go into all of my gear pieces. For this entire build, the main thing you have to worry about is making sure you don't go over 3 red and you have at minimum 7 blue and 7 yellow. You need all of that. So my headpiece, it is a wyvern wear, and I have the 2 slots of wyvern wear on. None of my pieces are actually that good for their hand set rolls. None of them are really that good. I did go 2 yellow into this, so you know that helps going up the yellow. The hard hitting definitely damage to elite. If you're using this specific build, as I said, these are the armor pieces I use for my build that actually uses an AR with the same talents. So you could try headshot damage. A lot of people using these weapons are going headshot damage. It's 15%, I think, for the talent as well. But I kind of do like the damage to elite over that. But you can still do either or. But then just the damage to elite, super simple for the helmet. The back piece is really important because you need on the ropes, one of the biggest talents of the build. Now, on the ropes is weapon damage is increased by 25% while all skills are on cooldown. And this is why you need at minimum 7 yellow. And then I have the hard hitting, which is 15% more damage to elites. And it rolled 2 blues and 1 yellow, so just more blue and yellow. Then I have a socket in it that's another blue, or a socket. I don't know why I'm thinking of WoW. Another mod slot in it that is a blue, which pretty much this entire build is literally getting 3 talents and trying to make sure your colors are in order, basically. And for the abilities for on the ropes to actually get the proc, I am actually using the jammer, which is that which you can instantly proc, so that's on cooldown. You need to have both your abilities on a cooldown, but you can use the healing chem launcher and just use one of the stacks. Since healing chem launchers baseline of 3, you can use just one. And now, as you can see, I actually have on the ropes procced. It's the same symbol. So you can use healing chem launcher, which is pretty much used by everybody for everything because it's a ridiculous amount of heals. And then pretty much your first ability is just anything you can get on a long cooldown really quickly. So that's for the abilities to get on the ropes procced. And then as I said before, mainly everything else is just going into the colors. Now the chest piece is also super important because that's unstoppable force, so we already talked about, and that's why you require 7 blue. And this is just a massive increase. Whether it's 30 or 40%, like I said, it's still a massive increase when you kill anything. And you don't have to reload or do anything like that. Just when you kill somebody, you get this massive damage proc. And I rolled 1 blue, 1 yellow on this. Now, if you can get 1 red on this, this is where you want one of your reds. I don't know if I can actually go higher weapon damage in this. I think I can, maybe, but I have 11.5% weapon damage. You want a really high weapon damage roll on this chest piece because that's just, you know, damage increase, basically percentage damage increase. So it's pretty massive and you can get a really good roll on chest pieces. Now gloves is another one of the really good talents and really big damage increase for this build. Now, as you can see, I'm still using my AR gloves since this was mainly an AR build. So for the gloves, you're definitely going to want whatever weapon you're using. And specifically for this build, we're clearly, you know, using a marksman rifle. So we would want that damage percentage increase. As I said, this build is in no way optimized, but it's still pretty good. And the main talent you're wanting is compensated. Weapon damage is increased by 15% when your critical hit chance is below 20%. And this is why you can only have 3 or less red, because you need 3 or less red. And your critical hit chance, you can only have 3 or less red, so you're really not going to get 20% critical hit chance. And so that's just another 15% damage increase. Now for your holster is pretty much just getting your colors up again. And a lot of these gear set holsters, for some reason, all of them have been rolling tons of like either just all blues or all yellows for me. So I have 2 yellow rolls and then 2 utility mod slots. So that's 2. I literally have 4 out of the 7 yellows I need just on this holster. These gear set holsters are rolling really weird like that. So yeah, just going more for the colors, and you can use whatever you want. And as I said before, my brand sets on all of these aren't really good. The brand set for this accuracy is actually pretty good for this build because it helps with the weapon just jumping everywhere after you shoot it. Now for your braces, or your knee pads, I guess, I just got a blue roll, which is a lot of armor, which definitely does help because that's technically another percentage damage increase proc from our chest piece just on this. I can't even find another roll higher than this. But a really good talent for this build, since you are going a lot of armor and have a lot of blue, is patience. Now patience is a ridiculous talent by itself if you can activate it, but since we already have the blue that we need, this talent is just, you know, perfect to put in this build. After being covered for 3 seconds, armor repairs by 5% every 1 second. Now, with having a lot more armor, because we have so much more blue, that's just, it makes you so tanky when this procs. You're just getting so much armor back so quickly. And since we have so much armor, you're just getting more back than normal. You already have the 7 blue, so it's just all good with this. Now, I'm pretty sure the knee pads are the slot that can actually get a talent that increases your weapon's durability by like 25% or something like that when you're in cover. I know some people with the SVD have been using that on different builds with it. So if you want that, you can use it. I would still recommend this. This thing, if I try any other builds, this thing is going to be, you know, so hard to get rid of. I just love this thing so much because you're so tanky and you're always in cover anyway. Then 1 defensive slot for another blue. Now I have 1 over blue and 1 yellow. Can't really put it anywhere else. So yeah, I just have more than I need, but you can't really put it into red anyway. And that is for all of my armor pieces. So even with not slightly an optimized build for this weapon, even without having, you know, the main talent on the weapon be even active for me, this build is actually super strong, and I could see it being optimized doing 4.5 million DPS, something crazy like that. Now, it is a little bit hard to use in combat because you have to get used to all the recoil and all the stuff like that, and you do really need to hit headshots in combat, but this thing is still can just pump out so ridiculous DPS, and it's definitely a nice change to be able to use something that's not just like an AR or an LMG that pretty much every build, you know, revolves around. And it's nice, and it's even a weapon that no one else uses. It's a marksman rifle that's semi-automatic. It's like a really unique weapon that, you know, now people are finding out builds for and finding this weapon's nice. We can actually, you know, have some variety in our builds, and it's pretty nice that I could just put this weapon on almost and, you know, change a few things around, barely anything, and still get some ridiculous damage. More DPS in my AR build, actually, just a little bit harder to use, just with a weapon switch. So that's pretty much the entire video. Oh, for my specialization, now my specialization, I'm clearly using the sniper, as you can see, and the reason I'm using the sniper build is pretty obvious if you have gotten that far and seen these talents. The talents in this are absolutely ridiculous. Now, you do get that scope. This is that scope that I was talking about, the 45% headshot damage increase. So if you want to use that long range scope, you're going to get that right here. What's also massive, 25% headshot damage. Pretty ridiculous just from this talent right here. Then you have 30% increased reload speed. That's huge for any weapon no matter what. Reloading just increases your overall damage while playing the game by a pretty good amount. And then you have 30% weapon stability, which is also pretty massive for this build because the weapon is pretty wild since, you know, it's semi-automatic marksman rifle. So, you know, the sniper tree just has so much that buffs up this build massively. So that is the specialization tree I'm using for this, and that is the entire build. Go out and try this. I'm going to be still trying to optimize this, get, you know, better rolls, get my good talent on the weapon, and everything like that. So subscribe if you want to see more Division 2 content. Leave a like if you liked the video. Leave a comment down below what you think about Division 2, what you think about this build, and thanks for watching.